Hello everyone, welcome to another class of biology, and in this class we are going to discuss about the asexual reproduction in living organisms, and this is from the unit why do organisms reproduce from class 10. Okay. As we know that asexual reproduction is one of the most fundamental process of reproduction in unicellular organisms. So, primarily most of the unicellular organisms they reproduce by asexual mean, okay? And also some of the multicellular organisms also reproduce by asexual reproduction. So, therefore, asexual reproduction occurs both in unicellular as well as multicellular organisms, okay? Primarily this occurs in the primitive organisms, and most of the advanced group of organisms they reproduce sexually, okay? Offsprings which are produced here are morphologically and genetically similar to that of the parent. Why it is so? Because as we know that in this kind of reproduction gamete formation does not occur. So, no gamete formation. Okay. So, as there is no gamete formation, so there is also no fusion of the gametes. So, no formation as well as no fusion. That is the reason in most of the sexually reproducing organisms there is a lot of variabilities that happen, because there is the fusion of the male gamete and female gamete, and that brings variability in the offspring. But in asexual reproduction, as there is no fusion of the gametes, so therefore, there are less chances of variability in the organisms. So, therefore, we say that offsprings which are produced in asexual reproduction are genetically similar and morphologically similar, and hence these organisms which are produced in this process are called as clones. Okay, because they are genetically identical to their parents, and the only way the variation can happen is by gene mutation, and which is very rare. Unlike in sexually reproducing organism, there are many different ways the variation can come. First of all, there is union of male gamete and female gamete, that is bringing the variation. The second aspect is that meiosis is happening, and during meiosis recombination of the chromosomes is occurring, so that is also bringing variation. And the third thing is mutation. So, three different approaches is bringing the variation in sexually reproducing organisms, whereas in case of asexual reproduction only there is one way where the variability can occur, and that is through mutation only. Okay. So, let us now look at the different types of asexual reproduction that occurs in both unicellular as well as multicellular organisms. Okay. If we divide all of them, so this is how they look like. So, the most important one is the fission, budding, fragmentation, regeneration, vegetative propagation and sporulation. So, these are the different modes of asexual reproduction that exist in nature and in different organisms. So, let us now discuss in detail each one of them as we progress. Okay. So, let us look at first the fission. So, fission means division, right? If we just like a nuclear fission, okay, so we know that it is division. Okay. And this occurs primarily in unicellular organisms, both in prokaryotic organisms like bacteria and eukaryotic organisms like amoeba, paramecium. In those organisms, this kind of reproduction mostly occurs. So, they occurs in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So, prokaryotes means what is the example? The bacteria is the example of this. Eukaryote means, okay, so for example, amoeba, paramecium, all these are example of the fission reaction, fission division which happens in living organisms. Okay. The fission can be broadly categorized into two types. One is binary fission, the other one is multiple fission. As the name suggests, they are very simple. In binary fission, one organism or one cell, because here the organism is the cell itself is the organism, because it is the unicellular organism, right. So, the cell itself is the organism. So, here the organism splits into two different organisms, right. The nucleus of the organism divides, the cytoplasm of the organism divides, and it forms two different new organisms. So, that is what occurs in binary fission. So, in multiple fission, as the name suggests, so multiple organisms must be producing from only one organism. So, let us look at how both the two processes work. Okay. So, let us first look at binary fission. Okay. Binary means bi means two, fission means division. So, that means one organism or one cell divides to produce two different daughter cells or daughter organisms. Suppose this is the parent organism. First, what will happen in this process? There would be the elongation of the nucleus. The nucleus will elongate, as you can see here. Okay, the elongation of the nucleus. Then there would be a groove or kind of a segmentation that would be formed in the plasma membrane, and the segmentation will grow from both sides. It will form on this side also, and it will form this side also. So, the segmentation or the groove is going to be formed from both the ends. We can call that as a protrusion also, because the protrusion is producing from both the ends. Okay, and they progresses inwards. They move inwards. So, as they move inwards, so what will happen? They take the nucleus along with it, and so by that process, what will happen? The nucleus also divides, and the cytoplasm also divides. Okay. So, the nucleus is dividing into two parts, and the cytoplasm is also dividing into two parts, and such kind of reproduction is called as binary fission. So, the new daughter cells which will be produced, they will contain the nucleus also, because the nucleus is the nuclear material is replicating here. Okay. So, there will be replication of the nuclear material, the chromosome will replicate. As the chromosome will replicate, they will form two daughter nuclei. As two daughter nuclei would be produced, and then the cytoplasm will divide. So, what will happen? The cytoplasm will be dividing into two equal parts, and the chromosome materials are also, along with the nucleus, is also going to be divided into two equal parts, and such kind of division is called as binary fission. And this form of division or this form of reproduction primarily occurs in favorable condition. ये जो होता है, so this occurs primarily in favorable condition. This is one of the important factor, because what is happening here, you see, the cell is increasing in size, the cytoplasmic material is increasing size, so that they can equally divide into two new daughter cells. The nucleus is also increasing in size, and the chromosome is also replicating. So, as so many activities are happening in this process, they need a lot of energy, and as they need a lot of energy, so certainly this kind of division or growth is going to happen in mostly favorable condition. So, now let us look at how multiple fission is different from the binary fission. And binary fission, as I already told you, this occurs in amoeba and paramecium, and it occurs in amoeba only in favorable condition. When the condition becomes unfavorable, then amoeba, the same organism, adapts to a different mode of reproduction, and that is called as the multiple fission. So, multiple fission takes place in organisms like Plasmodium. Plasmodium में दिखता है, which is a sporozoa. Plasmodium is also called as malarial parasite, okay, which causes malaria. So, this is a sporozoan, okay, and this also occurs in amoeba in unfavorable condition. What happens in this case? So, this is the parent cell, and it is happening in an unfavorable condition. The condition is not good for reproduction. So, then what will happen? So, the entire cell will be covered by a hard covering, as you can see here, and this hard covering is called as cyst. इसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? cyst बोलते हैं. Just like in winter, we protect ourselves by a warm clothing. Okay? In the same way, the cell is protecting themselves from the harsh environmental condition by an external coating, and that external coating is called as cyst. And when encystation has happened, the cyst formation has already happened, what will happen? The nucleus of the cell is going to divide into multiple nucleus. Okay? So, nuclei will first divide, nucleus will divide. Okay? And the nucleus divide into multiple nucleus. Suppose this is one nucleus, this nucleus will divide into multiple nuclei. So, there would be multiple nuclei would be formed, and each of the nucleus will be surrounded by cytoplasm and the plasma membrane. Sorry, it will be surrounded by cytoplasm and plasma membrane. So, this is how going to happen now. So, there are many nuclei which got formed, and the nuclei will be surrounded by cytoplasm and plasma membrane. And on the return of favorable condition, please remember this thing. So, first what happened? External covering got formed, then the nucleus divided, then the nucleus surrounded by a small mass of cytoplasm and what? The plasma membrane. And then when the favorable condition returns, the cyst wall now will break. The cyst breaks, and inside the cyst is present what? A large number of daughter nuclei, and all the large number of daughter nuclei will be released at once. Okay? And therefore, such kind of reproduction is called as multiple fission. इसको multiple fission क्यों बोलते हैं? Because at a given point of time, multiple organisms are released from one parent cell or from one parent organism. Okay, that is why this kind of reproduction is called as multiple fission. Okay, whereas the previous one is called as binary fission, because the binary fission, one cell divides to produce two daughter cells, and that occurs in favorable condition, whereas this occurs in unfavorable condition. And this is seen in Plasmodium and also in amoeba in unfavorable condition. Now, let us look at the differences between what we have discussed so far, the differences between the binary fission and the multiple fission. So, here as we said, it divides only once, and here the division is multiple times. Okay, the nucleus divides multiple times for many nuclei, and then it is surrounded by cytoplasm as well as plasma membrane. So, this occurs in favorable condition, we discussed this part. This occurs in unfavorable condition. So, this is the critical thing. Okay. And here the nucleus and the cytoplasm divides at the same time. Okay. And here first what happens? First the nucleus division occurs, the nuclei forms many nuclei, then each of the nuclei will be surrounded by some amount of cytoplasm. So, here there are two separate events. Okay. First the nucleus divides, then the cytoplasm divides. So, these are essentially the basic differences between binary fission and multiple fission. In the next class, we will see the other modes of asexual reproduction. Thank you very much.